Welcome to Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 127. I am Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. We talk about business tips and ideas for your business. The call-in number, if you want to talk to us, is 1-888-697-0162. Now, let me introduce the co-host to you. We have Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech team. How you doing, Chris?
Not Comcastic because they're not up here, but I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Jeff?
Well, that's good. I'm doing Comcastic and Springtastic and everything else that I can think of. I'm fantastic, man. It's putting this show a lot of times is a lot of work, but I actually love doing it, and I love hanging out with guys like you and everybody else that's in this panel right now, just to share what we're doing in our business. And I learn stuff all the time, so I'm excited to be here myself.
I love the passion coming out of this. Listen to this guy.
Right. It's all true, man. All from the heart. All right. Also we also have Alex Chamandy. I'm sorry, from Investment.com. How you doing, Alex?
I am FiOS fantastic. Why not?
Oh. Are you rocking that 300 up, 300 down?
That's right.
Okay. We got
whatever.
Show, no, that's cool. And also we have joining us today, we have John Dubinsky from MavenGroup.net. How you doing, John?
I'm better than I deserve. Thanks, Jeff. Good to be here.
No problem. And also joining us today, we have Aaron Michael from TechieTutors.com. How you doing, Aaron?
Google Cardboarderific lately.
That's a new one. Google Cardboarderific.
Except for my bandwidth envy, Alex.
Yeah, I'll
Sorry
tell
about
you.
No, don't be. You should be happy about it. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Very cool. All right, I think what we're going to do is, Chris, what kind of things you've been working on in your shop this week?
So this week we are looking at Crypto Prevent and seeing how we can either improve or replace it. So that's been our the big thing that we've been looking at lately. We're also looking at better ways of doing the documentation for our clients. So we're thinking about either moving to a wiki type of a thing or just getting away from Excel because we have everything in Excel spreadsheets right now. So those are the big projects that we've been working on lately. Everything else has been the same I talk about every week. Virus removals, some weird QuickBooks problems, and with the first half of 2015 coming to an end, the QuickBooks upgrades are going to stop, and we'll wind up waiting until next year for the rest of them to come in.
Well, I'm interested in the whole. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people are still getting hit with the crypto wall viruses and stuff like that, and people's stuff is still getting encrypted.
They are, yeah, and that's why we're looking at how we can improve the crypto locker right now. Not that it's not doing its job. CryptoLocker is doing a great job for us. Unfortunately, it blocks a lot of legitimate programs like Spotify. We have found that it's starting to cause a problem there. And the way that we need to be able to script everything, we can't script the program to not block Spotify and programs like it. So we're looking to either figure out a way to fix that or to move on to a different solution.
Well, here's the solution. Don't use Spotify. I mean, customers shouldn't be listening to music on their machine. Come on, let's just be honest here.
Man, I want to come work for you, man.
And then I tell them, don't use Microsoft Security Essentials. And then I tell them, don't put baloney in the CD drive. But they don't listen, Jeff. So you have to figure out a way to make it work for them.
Gotcha. That's sometimes that's kind of what we do, and it can be quite a pain. But I understand. So Spotify, out of all of that's just a weird one.
Well, you got to think too that in Canada, Sony Music Unlimited was actually the one of the ones that everybody went to, but Sony Music Unlimited has been recently purchased by Spotify, so that they can have the Canadian market. So now we're in a situation where Spotify is actually the best option for anybody that wants an internet-based radio. And in a business, under Canadian laws, you can stream live music into a business place as long as you're paying for it. So Spotify is actually something that people would purchase and pay for in order to be able to have the radio on at work when there's customers there.
I guess kind of like Pandora here, right?
Yeah. Again, I say you don't need to, they don't need to enjoy their day. They just need to come to work and work.
Well, like I said, you tell them things like that, and then they just wind up on YouTube. So I don't know what you want from me.
Or Facebook or whatever.
Or Facebook, yeah.
All right, very cool. And Alex, how about you? What's been going on in your shop this week?
Been working on a couple of big projects at server migration that I had talked about the last 2 weeks. We did the final stage of it and put the new server live. This thing's a beast. It's got 48 gigs of RAM, dual 512 gig solid states, 8-core Xeon processor, and it's hosted somewhere with plenty of bandwidth, and so it's a network of websites that runs on it. Everything went smoothly. There wasn't any downtime because the old site was still live while the new site was made live, and the DNS transition kind of took care of itself. So basically everything went better than expected.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that was good, and then we did first on-site visit for a business client this week and just basically had everything laid out on the table for us when we got there, which is nice. Not a lot of clients do that for us, but one thing that didn't work out was the server they had hoped would work from their previous firm was just had a couple issues. The optical drive was not working, and we felt like, well, we could work around that, but then we found one of the hard drives was failing as well. So we brought it back to the shop and placed the drive, loading file sharing software on there, and then bring it back to the shop this week.
Oh, very cool. No, it sounds like you're definitely keeping busy, that's for sure.
It's been a busy week.
But it sounds like a good one.
Definitely.
And John, how about you? What's been going on in your business?
Well, I've been monkeying around with a little bit of what Chris has. We're probably about 90% of the way through from our transition from LogMeIn, which I've talked about the last couple times I've been on here. And Chris, for documentation, I might tell you to take a look at Monkeybox. Have you ever heard of Monkeybox?
Monkeybox? No, I haven't, but I'm going to write that down.
Monkeybox.com, great place to get probably the way I would explain it would be informed IT, but on steroids. It's all hosted, meaning, and you can give different levels of access to different levels of the documentation. So if you got a business owner versus a location manager versus all of that. So that's been great, something that we just started using in coordination with something else called Watchman Monitoring. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but WatchmanMonitoring.com has turned out to be their Windows product is still in beta, but that has been great so far, and they've been a joy to work with. So the transition from LogMeIn has not been as bad as I thought it would have been. I'm really enjoying Screen Connect. And Jeff, I'd throw you the bone. Last podcast I listened to, you were still looking for some AV. We really like the F-Secure. It's called the Protection Service for Business, F-Secure PSB.
Yes, I've heard of that one. Okay.
Yeah, it's been great.
Okay.
I would highly recommend it. Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, that goes into a whole
rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, I fixed the bit defender issue I was having. I planned on, testing out ESET because the several times that I've installed it on machines, like I've said before, is I've never had a problem on any machine I've ever put it on. It's just run real smooth. And I guess from a standpoint of I'm looking for something that I can get on a residential computer, because those people just are not willing to pay a whole lot of money a lot of times, but at least give them something, and kind of have that base set up, and hopefully something that's not too complicated that I don't have to sit there and try to tweak and change and all that kind of stuff.
No, I think you'll find that at least F-Secure, at least for us, has been very nice, meaning it's a good example of that. We installed at a remote office that's probably about an hour from us, and we had a problem with some copiers that another vendor put in where scan to folders wouldn't work. So I was able to make the firewall changes from the web control panel that rolled out to there, and we were done.
Okay.
That easy. So
cool.
So, and you can preset everything from the installer for, you can create different installer points. So you could create a home configuration already that already has, the Xbox ports or whatever you want to have already open, and then roll that out just for home users.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay.
So you can have different profiles would be a good word for that. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's been great. I have no complaints so far, and their support and my sales rep there has been good.
Okay.
So.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing.
Pass that information on when we get done here.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
That's a hard thing to find too when you're dealing with vendors is having a good salesperson and good support. I can't tell you how many times we started looking into a product and then we find out just how bad the support is. Why would I put my customers through that? So
yeah, because when you need the help, you need the help.
Right. Oh, exactly. Yeah. And I'm not going to muddle through something that I don't understand just to make a couple of extra bucks.
Right.
No, even with F-Secure, I went through the webinar the first time, the sales call the first time, and there's a lot in there. So, and then I've been back 2 or 3 times, and they've been, now it's like we're buddies. Hey, just learn different parts of the control panel. So, you're back, John. Yeah, well, speak slower this time. So.
That's great.
Yeah, and Screen Connect's been great. I've talked to their support a couple times. Haven't had any problems with them. We've got about 380 endpoints in there right now, which probably means we've got about 120 left to put in there. So
nice.
That's been great.
Yeah, a lot of people talk highly of Screen Connect, and they get a lot of good things from it. So say it works.
So I'm just trying to get done so I can just sit back and do nothing for a while. Right.
Yeah. Good luck with that, John.
Yeah.
Let me know how it works out for you. Yeah. Oh, no, very cool. And Aaron, so what's been going on in your business lately?
This last week, let's see, did some maintenance on this fella's poster printer, super wide format printer, and got some parts in there cleaned up and working a little bit better for him. And finished up some work on a website for another fella who works with helicopters, mounting optics on helicopters for like movies and police force and things of that nature. And so hopefully when he gets back from racing this weekend, he can check out some of the things I made, and we can put it up live and get paid. And let's see, other than that, just a data backup for somebody, setting up a backup system at their house.
Great.
Wow. Optics and helicopters. Thanks for making the rest of us feel really boring.
Yeah, no
Oh,
kidding.
you know what's funny is we get to work with all kinds of people, obviously, that don't do what we do, but they do something else, and often what they do is pretty fun, pretty fascinating at least. So,
right.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff.
Oh, that's great. No, I fly RC helicopters, and so that in itself is fun.
I want a drone. I want one of those little drones or whatever. I want one so bad with the VR headset.
That would be awesome.
And then I want one. Go ahead.
If you ever, I don't know what you guys have down there, but I know up here near Toronto, there's a company and they have these simulators for fighter planes. And it's a huge room. You just give them like $500 for an hour for 4 of you to go in there, and everything moves and all the switches work exactly the same way as the actual fighter pilot. So here's what I'm thinking at this point, because Jeff is such an RC fan, that we should film that and send that to Jeff so that he can feel included.
There you go.
I'm thinking a meetup would be better.
There you go.
Meetup would try getting Jeff to come out of the country. I mean, really.
Yeah, no, I've been out of country for many years, and I'm back now, and I kissed the dirt when I got here, and that was it.
Canada's just another state. Come on.
Oh. It's not going to feel like another state when I'm sitting at the border trying to get through.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Been there, done that. No, that's cool. Hey, it sounds like everybody is keeping busy in their businesses, so that's really cool. I want to give everybody, I'll let you guys know what I've been working on. Week 3, still talking about the digitizer for the HP X Split 2, and I finally got it put back together after I figured out that when the digitizer came in, I needed some double-sided sticky tape to stick it down. I ordered that, put it back together, put some books on top of it, held it down in place, let it sit for like 24 hours, and for the most part, except where the bezel had cracked at, everything was sitting fairly flat. So there was still a little give in there. It's fine. It's solid, but it's just not as solid as what I would think would come from the factory. So but that did go together, and I made the mistake of not putting a ribbon cable in tight enough, and basically the charger wasn't working and all this stuff. So I basically had to take it apart several times to figure out that, and got it back together, and it's working. And got it back to the customer last night, and they're happy with it. I basically lost every dime on that thing, though, because I had ruined the LCD screen and had to replace it. So
Do you remember?
I don't think I'll be doing any more of those. What's that, Aaron?
Before you had 3 tapes that you had bought, just in case. Do you remember which one you ended up using, and what would you do differently if you were doing it again?
Oh, I actually, because you have to go around the cameras and everything that's on board, I actually ordered 3 different sizes double-sided tape from 3M, and it was the 10mm, 8mm, and 2mm, and I used all 3.
Oh, okay, just on various parts.
Yeah, so you basically have to cut out sections. Not all of them are completely, lengthwise down the side of the bezel. Some you might have to go around something. So you cut several pieces out and lay them in there, and then, place that screen down and get the connectors connected back. So it's knowing what I know now, I would probably do it again, except that I would probably charge like $250 in order to do it. Just because it takes so much time. I have a better understanding of how these things come apart, and so it's definitely something that's doable. I just won't charge such a inexpensive rate. And quite honestly, I mean, if people are really good at it and they like doing that, that's fine. I think in my business, though, I think I really want to stop. Maybe turning away any type of business. So I want people to know that I do it, but I might just charge a little more premium. If they seriously want it done, then if they're fine with that, if not, no big deal. They can go someplace else. But I will tell you, this person that came to me went to 2 other places and nobody would touch it.
Too scared, right?
So yeah, well, I don't know if it's that or just the time to get the part. I guess I was the only guy that actually went and looked the part up and got it ordered from Hong Kong and had it shipped over and all that kind of stuff. And so, from that standpoint, if a whole lot of people aren't doing that type of thing, I think it's one of those things that you can charge a premium for. And, as long as I can get paid for the time that I put into it. And I don't care if you're doing an Apple iPad, it's the same, the minimum amount of time, and I don't care what anybody says, because I use the iFixit stuff just like they tell you and everything. I'm going to tell you it's going to be a minimum of a half hour on that thing, prying at it, heating things up. Even if you use a heat gun, you can only use a heat gun that's going to be so hot. So the reality is you're going to spend at least a half hour, and I would say a lot of times, depending on the different types of tape that's out there, maybe even over an hour getting that screen off. So you really have to build that into your price. Now, I know there's somebody out there who's going to go, oh, no, I can take those things off in 10 minutes, and I'm like going, I really would like to see that process, but I haven't seen it yet.
I'll bet they could. I'll bet they could do it, but I mean, especially if you're going to charge a premium for it, one of the things that you can sell in the process is, hey, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to do this right, I'm going to make sure that nothing breaks, and I'll back it if it does. It's on me. But that's why you take your time. You could probably do it times if you practice, but why?
Yeah, exactly. Well, even from and this is straight from the iFixit guys too. And gals over there, basically, they look at that stuff and they go, yeah, Apple iPads, and you never know when a manufacturer is going to change the type of tape, how sticky it is or whatever. So, they're saying on average it's like it's a half hour, and from the comments over on their website, a lot of people have said too, yeah, it's a half hour to pry that thing up, to do it right. And a lot of times the other thing too is, if you have a shattered screen and you've got all these little glass shards everywhere, you've got to pick all that stuff out, because if you try to put another screen in there and you miss something, chances are you're going to crack that screen again. Yep. And, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little less scared of it now. I mean, it's like doing your first power jack repair, where you're desoldering and soldering a power jack on. And I remember it took me 6 hours to do my first one, and it was nerve-wracking. And now I can get those things done in half hour. It's not that big a deal. But so that's kind of how I felt with this, except that that there's a lot of metal and different things. With this, you're talking about a piece of glass, and it seems like the glass is robust, but man, I was super careful with it because I was just afraid of breaking it and having to order another part that would take another 21 days to get here. So, anyways,
first phone I did, I put tape over the glass first. So if you have never done it before, you're going to try it your first time, make sure you put tape over the glass first, because if it shatters while you're prying it up, now you got splinters everywhere. So I made that mistake the first time I did a phone a while back.
Gotcha. Now with this screen, there was a backing. There was a film on the back, and there's a film on the front. So I left the film on the front while I was installing it, but pulled the one off the back, obviously. And it went fine there. And as a matter of fact, that's how I gave it back to the customer. Hey, here's a little protective screen. If you want to pull it off, that's fine. But for right now, I want to get it back to you and working and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, I think let's get into. Well, let me make another announcement. I just want to remind you guys that CompTIA Channel Con is coming up August 3rd through the 5th, and it's in Chicago this year. And right now, I am slated to go. I think Chris and I are doing a road trip, so I want to invite everybody out in the community. Not only that owns your own computer repair shops, but just come to rub elbows with a bunch of people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think from a standpoint of us getting together as far as in the podcasting realm, but also for your business. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting talks there, and I think if you spend the money and come to something like that, it can be very beneficial for you, and I think can move your business forward. At least that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to learn things that I don't know so that I can move my business forward. Because although I can learn a lot of stuff on the internet, a lot of times it's the relationships and stuff you build in the different things that is made available to you because of that. So, but yeah, Chris and I will be doing a road trip. He'll actually be coming down and picking me up, and so we'll be heading out that way. And when we first started talking about it, all I could think about was planes, trains, and automobiles. But
I was thinking about notifying the INS, but
so anyways, yeah, but I think it's going to be fun, and we are going to do some sort of event there. I just don't have all the details yet, but as we figure that out when it gets a little bit closer, I will let everybody know. But definitely come. And if you are planning on attending, if you want to start sending some emails to us and letting us know that hey, I plan on being there this year, because we just kind of want to see if we can all link up at some point and get with everybody. So, anyways. With that, let's go into a couple emails. All right, and this is from Jason. And it says, "Hi, Jeff. I've been watching your podcast for a couple months, and so far I've enjoyed watching your show." That's good. I'm glad so far you've enjoyed watching the show. I hope we don't do it disjustice this
You're on notice.
Anyway, I came across a new USB multi-boot tool called Easy to Boot. If you heard or use the tool RM Prep USB, the maker of RM Prep USB basically has made a way to boot any ISO image by simply copying a ISO image to the folder for that type of ISO. You can boot anything from WinPE, Linux install ISOs, Windows ISOs, and most live CDs. You can check it out here at www.easytoboot2boot.com. Thank you for the hard work you do with your podcast, and keep up the great work, Jason. Thank you, Jason. And yes, I have used Easy to Boot with the RM Prep USB tool. There was a video that was put out by Brytech in the community there that he did a video on how to set that up, and I watched his video, set it up on a USB stick, and move some of the ISOs that I use on a regular basis. I did have a couple problems with Windows 8 working correctly with it every time, and it goes from manufacturer to manufacturer. Even with the UEFI BIOS and all that kind of stuff, even if you change it into legacy boot, I just haven't been able to get that stuff to be able to recognize. And it could be a USB key too, so I'm going to try a couple different ones and see if I can make that work a little bit better, because it'd be nice to have all the ISOs in one spot on a USB key instead of having to, load everything up on separate USB keys.
Have you used Yumi before, Jeff? YUMI?
Yes. Yep, I've used that before.
That
what about you guys?
My go-to.
Yeah, I've used that, and it works fine. It's one of those things. I'll be honest with you, I'm still a little old school. A lot of times I just throw a disk in because they're already created and I'm lazy. So
that's not old school lazy. I think is where you got it there.
How about the rest of you guys? You guys use any multi-boot tools?
Yeah, I use Pendrive Linux or Yumi as well. I found that to be a pretty useful way to creating disks.
Yeah, Yumi, but I've still, kind of like you, Jeff, I got a CD wallet with tons of old school stuff I've been using for years, so.
Exactly. It's one of those things where I would love a tool that's all in one place, but a lot of times it's the time and effort it takes to put it in, restart the computer, and okay, that's not working. Why is that not working? And I kind of just go, whatever. Let me throw a disk in. And so it all depends. I would love a tool that has everything all in one place that you can use. We've got a couple of those for virus removals and Windows repair and stuff like that, and they work fine. But it's one of those things. It's just, I think a lot of times too is learning to use those different tools out there and trying them on different systems. Even while sometimes when you're trying to get a system back to a customer, it's kind of frustrating. So you're kind of like, I want to get this done. I don't have a whole lot of time to spend with this, and so you kind of you do what you got to do. But yeah, I'm definitely going to play around with those a little bit more because I think it would be nice to have all the, like I said, all the ISOs in one spot.
And there's some tools that are going to work better than others, and there are some times where you're always going to have to go back to the CD because for whatever reason the BIOS on the client machine can't boot from a USB.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it seems like to me. So that's why, I mean, even in today's day and age, you can pretty much put a disk in anything and it's going to work, pretty much. I guess there's been a couple issues with Windows 8 that I've ran into, but, for the most part, you can get something to work. So that kind of makes it nice. All right, very cool. And let's move on with our second email, and this is from Chandler. Okay, it says, I have 2 Geeks iPhone repair for about a year now, and I'm a one-man band. I feel you there. I repair phones and tablets mostly, but for about 6 months ago, started taking on desktops and laptops. I mostly do virus removal and cleanup and wanted to give you a list of what I run for my process and see if it's a good list of programs to run, or would you change, add, or delete any in your opinion? I also do hardware repair, but it's not in big demand in my area. I'd love to live in that area. Nobody breaks anything, really? They don't drop stuff? That's cool. Anyways, I listened to one of your shows and heard you guys talk about that you run programs, and I think that's all, I think that's all to it. I'm guilty of that, but I remember we were talking about a lot of people will just put in a bunch of tools and get them to work, and not really understand what it is they're actually doing when they do a virus removal and cleanup. Okay. I am guilty of that, but that's only because I don't know how to learn about manually removing viruses and editing the registry. I know how to access the registry, but I'm afraid I'll mess something up. I don't want to be one of those guys that runs programs not knowing what they all do. I have the passion for my job. I just need to know how to go about learning. Now, with all that being said, I have some questions. This is what I run. Is it a good list? What needs to be added, taken away, or changed? Feel free to critique all you want. All the programs are the cheap trial versions and such, and I normally get the portable versions from portableapps.com, but I intend on buying the real ones once I get a firm foundation on that. And I'll just say to that before I go into this list is that a lot of us use a lot of the free tools out there. There's all these different companies that make these tools. So anyways, here's my list in the order I run them. Viper, Quick Scan. Kaspersky, TDSS Killer. MCSoft, Quick Scan. Malwarebytes. Super Anna Spyware. Revo Uninstaller Portable. Autoruns. CCleaner. Wise Disk Cleaner and Wise Registry Cleaner. And then I normally install AVG free. Right now I'm running cleaners 1 through 10 above and installing AVG free for $50 total for it all, and I'm wanting to maybe switch to the plan below. I don't know what the pricing I need to make it just yet, and I'm also wanting to know your opinion on it, if Viper is a good AV, and if Backblaze is a good backup solution. And he's got a couple different packages he's put together here with backup, paid for antivirus, free antivirus, so on and so forth. It says, I am not a reseller of Viper or Backblaze at the moment and wanted your opinion on both. I'm just needing the guidance from a fellow tech like you. All right, thanks, Chandler. Appreciate all that information. And I basically sent him an email back and said I've used all 1 through 8 to do computer cleanups in the past. I have never used Wise Disk Cleaner or Wise Registry Cleaner. I'm not even familiar with what those are. I've just never used them. I've never really heard of them. So, but a lot of the other stuff, Viper used to actually be my go-to tool. And it was one of the first things that I ran in the system. What I did was I actually went into safe mode and ran Viper antivirus, and I ran the full gambit. And that thing took like 6 hours. But, man, it found some weird stuff, and it would just pull it out. And that would get me to a point where I could, have a working system and then move on from there. What I've learned nowadays is that a lot of things that we're doing, a lot of these programs we're running, are doing almost identically the same thing. So what will happen is you'll run your first few programs, you'll get a lot of the stuff out of there, and then the other programs that you're running, we look at it maybe as a double check or something like that, but the reality is they're not finding anything because this other program already took care of the same types of things. So that's what I found anyways when I'm doing virus removals and stuff. I don't run as many programs anymore. I run really Malwarebytes. Kaspersky TDSS killer, and I run a tool on the Tech USB that basically goes through, and if there's any registry things that are messed up, I'll go back and it'll fix all those. So that's basically what I'm doing anymore. I've got it down to a very finite process where I'm not spending a whole lot of time cleaning up computers, because I used to spend anywhere from 8 to 12 hours of scans. Now, it wasn't time on a computer, but it was just I would tie up a computer for a long, long time. So I've really started looking at a lot of things I do. And the other thing too is like auto runs. Auto runs would be one of the first things that I would run as far as looking at a computer today, just to see if anything nefarious is running in the background. I think it's a great tool for that. You can see if programs are starting up, shutting down. You can kill programs from there, and if they pop right back up, that it's either a legitimate Windows thing, or there could be something going on. So and there's a lot of tools that are built in there to look at things fairly quickly. So anyways, that's my story behind that. Any of you guys have what you kind of do in that situation?
Well, I mean, a lot of what we do involve like Hitman Pro, Malwarebytes, and chunk removal tool. The rest of it we're pretty much doing by hand. As far as removing the actual programs themselves through add remove that wind up getting installed.
Right.
And we use D7 to clean up the temp files and do all of that as well as a general cleanup afterwards. But really, I mean, time on keyboard for something like that is no more than a half hour.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That's what I found. Anyone else?
Pretty similar. I like to start off with some kind of CD to actually scan the file system before Windows is loaded to get rid of any of the advanced persistent threats, so I don't have to fight them in Windows. And then from there, usually boot up into Windows, remove any antivirus software, and then start the removal process from there, usually in safe mode if possible, because I found you're just going to have a little better luck. And then as far as tools, similar stuff, Malwarebytes, sometimes Spybot Search and Destroy. Combo fix as necessary. Don't always want to bust that one out, but when you need to, it's a great one to have. And when we're doing the final cleanup, I like to run CCleaner, and you can pretty much script a lot of this stuff to be automated, so that can also cut down on the time on keyboard.
Geez, Spybot Search and Destroy. It's been a long time since I've seen that running on a system.
It works pretty good.
Yeah.
He's not the first one. I've heard many techs nowadays that are talking about Spybot Search and Destroy as making a comeback, and they like it for the things that it does. So
yeah.
And it's a different program now. It's in its subsequent iteration, version 2. It has a different user interface. It has improved detection routines and protection and immunization. So, and also user interface is a little less clunky. It doesn't look like it's from 1995 anymore, which certainly helps.
Yeah.
And of course, we all check the hard drive first, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
that's a good point.
My clients are supposed to be checking the hard drive first, but
Yeah, how's it working out, Chris?
Well, you know what? Look, here's what it's come down to, and this is very true story here. Of all the tech bench tickets that we wind up taking for virus removals, I know which ones are using the Tech USB licenses that we bought for them and which ones aren't, because the ones that do are taking the time to write in the ticket, all of these checks passed. So what I'm seeing is probably 3/4 of them are actually starting to do it, and the ones that don't wind up with half of their tickets sent back because the hard drive's bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, it's just anybody listening here that's a customer of mine, start using that scan, please, because I'm really, really not liking sending tickets back. I hate tickets that don't have an invoice on them, because it ruins my my stats.
One of the things, that's a great tool to use, but the other thing, the very first thing I do when I boot a machine up is I go into its diagnostic tools that are on all HP, Dells, Lenovo's, whatever, and I run those tools, and it does a comprehensive hard drive scan, and it might take a half hour to 45 minutes, but it will tell you, usually, if there's something wrong with the hard drive, it tells you right away. Failed on hard drive, memory's good, so on and so forth. So I think like I said, why even boot into Windows when you don't even know what's going on with the hard drive? That's the very first thing that I do nowadays is just boot in diagnostic tools, boom, and
that's
figure all that stuff out, then I move on.
That's the point of a tool like Tech USB, right?
Right.
Difference being that we're loading it externally from the system and it's running off of a USB stick, but it does all the same scans.
Right.
And I found it to be pretty accurate.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Oh yeah, again, as a matter of fact, I ran it just because sometimes I'll kind of double test things because I just want to see how things are working in the industry. So I ran the regular diagnostic tools off of a laptop to check the hard drive and got some things back. And then I ran some of the diagnostics off of Tech USB, and same thing. They both failed at about the same point. So I was like, they're both doing what they need to do. So that's cool.
Yeah. So what it comes down to at that point then, I know I'm probably dragging this part of the conversation out too long, but what it comes down to that point then is time efficiency, right? And what's easier for you. So Jeff, if you pretty much have the layout of those diagnostic tools memorized at this point because you've been doing it for forever, and you get to a point where it takes you less time to do that than it would be to load a third-party tool, I would do that. Most techs don't because they don't use those diagnostics in the first place, and I find it amazing, and I'm not putting anybody down, but I find it amazing how many new techs we talk to that don't run hardware diagnostics before virus removal because it's just a virus. Well, maybe it's not, right?
They don't have the scars yet to prove it, and all that.
Exactly.
So we've all done that, right? So I mean, it's one of those things that that's kind of why we're here. We're trying to teach you that there is a process and a way to follow certain steps in your process, and we're telling you that I've done it, and I know you guys have probably done it, where I've cleaned a machine up and it's still not running right, and then I go and do a hard drive check and go, oh, the hard drive's bad.
I can't believe I just wasted 2 hours of troubleshooting. And I mean, I've done it, and it's a hard lesson learned, especially when you realize that you're not going to be able to charge that customer anymore.
Right.
But I think what that also comes down to, though, is having a written process for yourself and making sure that the process that you've written is as not time sensitive, but time efficient as possible, where you're not wasting time between steps so that you can move on to the next system.
Well, the nice thing, we've talked about this before, but the nice thing about having a process list, and a lot of people go, well, I've got my process and it's right here in my head. And it's like, and that's all great and everything, but here's the reality. How many times have we forgotten to update Flash or whatever?
Yep.
There's always those things that are more towards the end of the cleanup that we forget to do, and it's one of those things where if you have a process sheet, and I would recommend that you actually have one that you print out and you tape to the side of that machine or whatever, and you just kind of go through it and check it off with a real pen or pencil.
Right.
Because here's the reality: if you have that in place, you don't have to think. You can be thinking about other things in your business. You're just going through a checklist.
Yeah,
I've done that.
I think that makes sense. And I think that also helps people keep track of what they're actually doing and in what order they're supposed to be doing it, whether it's an online list that you can manage from like your tablet or your laptop, or a physical pen and paper list, whatever works best for your business model. Right. The online list might be a little more productive because you can share the results with the customers pretty quickly. But basically, I think you have to have your workflow like that. And I also think, when you're dealing with an unstable system, throw a RAM test in the mix too. It can't hurt to do a 1 or 2 pass mem test if someone says it's a virus, but really it's just blue screening or something else. Yeah. You got to get a sense of what's going on with the hardware. And in terms of hard drive testing, I think a tool like Vivard is a really good one for everyone to consider because it's free. It's on that toolkit, the Ultimate Boot CD, that you can download and just burn to any disk or put on a USB. And it'll work on just about any kind of hard drive. And it'll give you the smart status, and it'll give you a long scan as well.
Excellent. Another tool that I wasn't aware of. So yeah, and that's why. So that's why part of the reasons I run the diagnostic tools on the machine, because one of the things it does test is the memory also. So it tests a lot of the things that are that are supposed to be working on that machine. They're specific to that manufacturer's setup. So
you just want to be careful because some of the tests I've noticed, especially on some of the HPs, they'll just do a very quick hard drive test, and they're not actually testing every sector. So if that hard drive has any defects, you may not catch it with that diagnostic. So you got to kind of consider whether it's a quick test or a longer test.
Oh, see, now all the ones that I've ever ran on any of the ones, they do the quick test first, and if that fails off right away, then it won't go into. But it gets to a certain point where it goes, hey, this is going to take another 30 minutes. Do you want to do a more comprehensive test? And you can hit enter, and that's what I do, and I let it run through its comprehensive test and do all that type of extra stuff. Because quick tests are great if they show you that it fails right away, but if not, yeah, you definitely need to do a little bit more comprehensive tests to see, if something's working. And I've never really had a machine where I go, I can either tell either the hard drive's bad or it's not. I don't think I've ever ran into a machine that I've ran any tool on that I've gone, oh, wait a minute, and I get it back to the customer and figure out that the hard drive's bad later. So it's like it's either bad or it's good, I think, from a lot of these standpoints. But yeah, it's nice to have different tools that you can use, because sometimes maybe you don't have that opportunity to use the diagnostic tools on there, or you can't get a third-party tool to boot in via USB. But I still have a copy of Ultimate Boot Ultimate Boot CD, and I still use it for certain things because it does work really well. But I didn't even realize that was on there, I guess.
Yeah, it's under the hard drive diagnostics, and one of the things that's nice is it gives you a visual output of every sector it's tested. It gives you statistics of any sectors that were unreadable and uncorrectable versus ones that you can do either a scan, or you can do a scan that corrects errors. So it'll go through and try to repair bad sectors and basically mark them as allocated to a different part on the computer. So there's definitely a lot of value in that, because the other problem is the vendor diagnostics don't really give you any visual feedback. So what they might consider to be a good hard drive could still be a drive that has 20 bad sectors, just because they don't want that to fail, so they have to send it back for warranty. So there's a little difference in the amount of verbosity or granularity you'll get in some of the tools.
Every hard drive is going to have bad sectors, though. Every hard drive is consistently, sectors are dying, and that's one of the things that the hard drive firmware is constantly doing. It's moving things around so that it's you have those points of failure, but it doesn't because there could be hard drives that are I look at things like Crystal Disk Info, and you've got like hey, it's green, or hey, it's yellow caution, and that doesn't really tell you a whole lot, or it's red, and it's really bad. But the reality is, I don't think there's any hard drives out there that don't have bad sectors in them, because that's quite honestly, especially the spinning one, that's how they're made, is to fail out, and and that happens over time. So,
and that's the difference between correctables bad sectors and uncorrectable bad sectors, which is an important distinction. That you have the sectors that the drive can correct, and it allocates from the spare space, and basically says if you're hitting this mark, you're actually going to this part of the disk geometry. So that can add a little bit more latency to the drive when it's doing certain operations. But the uncorrectable bad sectors are the ones the drive is going to hit every time, and it's not going to get past it. It's going to cause a lot of read errors, and that's when a drive really needs to be pulled. And what I'm saying is some of those vendor diagnostics are going to look right past that.
Well, that's why Steve Gibson will even argue with his SpinRite that he suggests you run it before you even on your brand new drives.
Right.
I've never taken the time to do it, but
no, it's one of those things. It will. So basically, when you get a bad sector that it's not readable, it basically, the firmware basically blocks that off from ever being
puts
used.
it in
again.
the unused table. Yes.
Right. But if like Alex is saying, though, if it's something that's uncorrectable and it keeps coming up because whatever the firmware on there is not blocking that sector out, or it's a sector that it absolutely has to be on there, because you can always get to a point where you get to a point of there's so many uncorrectables that's when you basically have a bad hard drive.
You run out of spare space to allocate
exactly.
from.
Yeah.
Well, to me, this is, at least in my world, it's all about preventing unplanned work. So I would always fail on the side of caution, where I even thought a drive might be bad.
Right.
That drive's coming out.
Yeah.
Going in, because the unplanned work is what will kill my week or kill my calendar.
Right.
So that's what I try to prevent.
And it's not just that, though. You also want to make sure that the customer has a good experience. So if we're doing work on their computer, you want to make sure they don't have to bring it back in because you missed what may have been a hard drive that was bad. So we also err on the side of caution.
Absolutely.
If you see more than 10 of those sectors that are acting up, or any sectors in the system area of the drive, that drive's toast.
And that can be as simple as going back to what Jeff said, just making sure you did install Adobe Flash or whatever that checkbox that you forgot to check is. So,
right.
I totally agree. Yeah.
That's an important part of the workflow to talk about, too, because we're talking about the diagnostics, which is what you do before you kind of do the work. If you know what the job is that you're doing, like removing viruses, but you want to make sure the hard drive and memory is working, you also should have something you do after the work to make sure what you're delivering to the client is consistent with what you would expect and what they would expect. So it's good to have another kind of checklist of, is this working, is sound working, is wireless working, is network working, are all these little functions that we need to make sure work so we don't have to come back and clean up later.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Work. Yes.
Yeah. I've got some automated tools in D7 too that basically I run through all that, and it basically will check each and every one of those: internet connection, sound, all the different things that, is Flash working, is, whatever. Can I read a PDF? Some of these different things that we don't really think about because we're not necessarily sitting there and opening up a bunch of PDFs or, listening to YouTube videos or anything like that. But if you have something in place that can check all those things, that way when it gets back to the customer, they go, hey, I can't open up a whatever. And no, that's very important. So now, Aaron, what's your process when it comes to? I mean, we kind of talked about a bunch of different things, but process as far as tools you use.
Yeah.
Virus removals and cleanup.
Well, I mean, overall process, the first thing I do, the OCD in me is going to sanitize and clean the computer before I start working on it. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but I mean, it's just a health thing as well as a lot of the times. I mean, I think I've heard people on the show mention this before. You might be diagnosed a bad, or not, quick diagnose a bad motherboard guess. I'm trying to do this, and a light, it's probably the motherboard. You go in there, take everything apart, clean it up, works just fine. I've seen that a bunch of times, but I'm not going to go to that level, obviously, first off. But yeah, get the leaf blower, blow it out. If you have to, cotton swab it a little bit, but definitely sterilize that keyboard, clean up the screen a lot. That's number one. Secondly, boot outside of the native operating system and do your diags first. I'm going to check the hard drive. As far as tools, HDTune is not free, but it's actually a really good one. Alex, you mentioned the graphic interface. I like the fact that all the reports are really nice and easy to read, and they're easy to explain to people. So you screenshot that out and you put it in your file that you're going to go review with the customer or leave it on their desktop for them to go through. But it's a nice way because I don't know if you guys have gotten this as well, but you boot the machine up in front of the customer, the first, let's check it out together real quick, and you think, I've done this a million times, and I'll bet your hard drive is starting to fail. And the first thing I always hear is, no, my hard drive's fine.
Oh, yeah, because they're the expert, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not the hard drive. I know
there's nothing wrong with the brakes on my car. The problem is that people aren't stopping fast enough.
Yeah. So I get that a little bit, and it's really nice to be able to show people, and it's not very confrontational to email it to them and say, hey, look, I just want to go over the results of what I found on the tests that I ran on the computer, and they see red, green, 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 red, 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 and they see the speed test, everything really low. And it's really easy to convey to them that this is something that needs to be addressed one way or the other. So HDTune, it's relatively inexpensive for a single license. What else? From there, I actually do the first round on the virus removal after I run memtest as well, because again, knock out the easy stuff quick. Make sure if you have any hardware issues, you're going to identify that right away. I like to get the keys at that point also sometimes to anything else that I have, and a Cronus to back up is what I've been using. So yeah, from there, MCSoft sometimes, Hitman. I mean, it depends on what's necessary, but in general, I'm not going to run too many tools if I don't have to. Get into the operating system, and I go through with Revo, and I typically try to uninstall all the stuff that I recognize, get everything out with what's in startup. Maybe reboot, maybe do some Windows updates, depending on why the computer came in. And when we're talking about virus removals right now, but generally make sure the Windows are up to date, because that'll solve some problems all by itself. Sometimes we know. Yeah, as far as other tools in particular, not necessarily. From there, I'm probably going to try to address the chief complaints, which if it's a virus, I'm going to, obviously go and run those tools. But what else? Almost never combo fix anymore. CC cleaner at the end. What else? I mean, all the stuff that we already know, malware bites. Herd protect, I like sometimes. Sometimes other things don't catch things, and that'll root it out. Yeah, those are some of the ones that come to the top of my head right away. Win also for registry cleaning. But yeah, you hit it with just those basic tools, and if you don't need to go any further, then don't go any further. You can kind of proceed to that step at the end that you were talking about, Alex. Just confirm that all the issues have been addressed and that everything's functional, and that you've gone in and put all your stuff together and made that nice little folder on the desktop for them to have when you maybe go over it over the telephone or remotely with them.
Right. That's that's great. A lot of times I think everybody does their processes a little bit differently, which is cool. And we've all got things that I'm always trying to make my process better, and make it more understandable, because I think one of the things that we're talking about doing process sheets, but the other reason for doing a process sheet, and I think a lot of people need to realize this, is if you ever have to hire somebody, or if you ever are subcontracting somebody out, then that's one of the nice things that's nice to have, because you can basically pass this on and go, here's what I want you to do. I understand you might know how to do certain things, but here's the process I want you to follow. So the same thing is getting done every time. And I think that's very important. And I like what you said, Aaron, about cleaning the computer out. I have a big thing of alcohol.
Me too.
Not drinking. But first thing I grab out my rag and I pour it on there. Especially laptops, man. I wipe those things down.
Yeah.
You got to.
Sorry, I didn't cut somebody off, but I was going to say people really appreciate it. That's actually the first thing I get a lot of people remark on. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you cleaned it. That looks fantastic. Thank you. I'd pay you just for that."
Well, I appreciate it because it's one of those things that if you see all the stuff that's on there, it's disgusting, and I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, it's really hard to type commands into a command line when you're looking at the keyboard like it's got leprosy.
Yeah.
Sticky is not good.
Well, I mean, latex gloves. It's not just. The feedback's not the same.
That's right. Yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
But the other thing, as far as that checklist goes, just if I could tack on to that, I'm not at this place right now because I've only, been full time at this a short time. But looking forward to the day where I've got 20 computers to fix at the same time. That checklist would be really convenient to make sure I don't have to keep track of every single one. And if I got 3 HP desktops that all look the same. So far I've only had 4 at a time here, but I would like to have a lot more.
Well, we've had to do that too, and we've integrated it into our tickets, so the tickets themselves have the checklist for things like virus removals, because we want to be paperless. So that's the way that we've gone for it. It also sends an email directly to the customer as we're doing the updates, so they already know, this is where my computer is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it all depends, too. If you've got computers sitting on a bench, I guess, one of the things I look at is probably doing paper, because if I can tape it to the side of the machine and I've got my, my son following up or whatever, hey, just follow through the process. And, he can check it off as he goes, and it's, it's that dead simple. But I think a lot of times, if you're doing remote support or something like that, you definitely have to have that online process, even like Alex was talking about. And, because I've got the ability to use those checklists in a PDF format, on a tablet or whatever. And I guess as long as you attach a name to them, I guess you can swap back and forth. There's some things I still do old school. So for whatever reason, I like to have that. I love pen and paper now.
Not to be the one to jump in on that. If we are planning on still talking about our topic, we have about 6 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I really like the emails that we're getting, and I really like talking about the things that we've been talking about, because a lot of times people are asking questions, and this is a great way to get these questions answered. But I'll tell you, another good way is also to call into the show. We've got a free 1-800 number that you can call, and we're live here every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can call in with your question. You can call in with your comment of hey, here's how I do virus removal, and kind of add to the conversation. And it helps the community out, and just bringing people together and getting you those quick answers. I reply to all the emails, and I bring them to the show because I don't have all the answers, but I like when we've got a group of people that can answer these answers. So, but with that being said, yes, we are going to move on to our topic. All right. So this was brought to me from our friend Chris Carruthers. He's that guy from Remote Support Tech Team. He does a white label service for computer techs.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah,
I haven't.
We should have on the subway.
Should check him out.
The only thing I don't like about Chris is that he's Canadian. So
man, that's a low blow.
You know what? There's a word for this.
Yeah.
This is a family-friendly show, though, so I'm just going to keep it to myself.
Other than that, I love the guy. But no. So no. So Chris sent me an email a couple days ago and said, hey, I've got this topic that I want to talk about because it's something that's affecting my customers. It's something that's affecting people out there in the business. And this was perfect because this is something that I feel too. There are way too many people who are, one, either screwing up their businesses, or two, they're quitting. And they're like, you know what, I'm tired. This is just too much work for what I'm getting paid. So we're going to go along those lines. But here's what we want to say: is the topic he gave me was do what you're good at and leave the rest. In other words, you can be a jack of all trades and a master of absolutely none, which is absolutely a 100% true statement. Because again, I'm great at taking apart a laptop. I am not great at fixing a digitizer on a laptop. You know, and so when you're thinking about the things that you're doing, and you're thinking about what is it that I'm really good at. Now, I don't know that I necessarily trained myself on taking apart laptops, but it just got to the point where I was getting mostly laptops in my business. I wasn't getting a whole lot of desktops, and I got to the point where I can take any laptop apart in like 10 minutes. I mean, all the way down to the motherboard. It's not a big deal. And pretty much back in the day, a few years ago, there used to be a lot of different screw sizes. Now there's one, maybe two different screw sizes, and that's about it. So I just throw them in a bowl and go from there. But I'm really good at that, but I'm not good at fixing phones, digitizers, things like that. So one of the things he was talking about, though, with that in mind, he was talking about bookkeepers, accountants, lawyers. When it comes to the computer business, people are thinking of starting up their own companies. They're trying to do everything. You're the bookkeeper, you're the accountant, you're the lawyer.
Yep.
And God forbid you own your own business and you're doing your own taxes. I will tell you 100%, shame on you. You should be paying somebody else to do that, because I don't know about you guys, but the tax code is way too big for me to understand anything about it and actually get the things back that I need to get back legally. And
it's hard, right? I mean, and the reason why I brought this up, and it's hilarious that you're bringing up taxes specifically.
Seeing we're past April 15th now.
Is that well? And now we have different dates, so let's just put that.
Okay.
There. I'm not late yet, but here's the thing: I'm not a bookkeeper. I suck at it. I'm really good at making invoices and sending it to people, and then after that, that's it. And I don't even make the invoices anymore. I have my bookkeeper do all that, right? I have an accountant now. I didn't last year. I'm realizing how much of a mistake that was, because my accountant sat down and said, you didn't have to pay all of this, and here's how.
Right.
And if you had given yourself a bonus of this much money at the end of the year, not only would your personal taxes not gone up, but your corporate taxes would have gone down. And if you and we 45 minutes about all the things that I did wrong.
Right.
Because I didn't have an accountant last year.
The way you wrap that up is we ask our clients to trust us because we know about the IT. It seems like a lot of the business owners forget that we should be trusting the professionals that know what they're talking about as far as accounting, tax, law, things that we don't, quote unquote, dabble in.
Right.
So,
Exactly. So, focus on running your business. Focus on, if you're the only tech, focus on getting yourself trained. Focus on growing your business. Focus on increasing your revenue so that you can hire on more techs, right? You need to focus on everything that you're good at. And unless you've gone to school to be a lawyer, or gone to school to be a bookkeeper, or gone to school to be an accountant, or anything else, really, you should be doing it. You should be having somebody else do it. And I can already hear some people, that's really expensive. Well, so screwing up your taxes or getting sued and not really knowing what to do when you get in there.
Right.
Plus, all those items are non-value added, so you're not billing when you're doing those items, so you're not making money. So you should be able to bill out enough money to pay for those services so that you need them.
Well, exactly. And I'm not. I use this analogy because it's the simplest one. Is I don't change my oil. Actually, I don't wash my car. Today, I brought my car to a car wash place. They washed my car, filled it with gas, and brought it back to me.
What do you live in the 1960s?
so that I could work. I paid them around $100 for the whole thing, gas in, and I was at almost an empty tank. I had maybe a tenth of a tank left, right? And that was it. And I worked. Right now I made billable time during that time, so it more than paid for it. I would have lost that billable time had I been doing it.
Right.
And these other services are no different. I think that anybody who has a business should have at least a lawyer that they can call. Maybe not necessarily on retainer, but somebody that they can get on retainer if they need it. I think everybody should have an accountant, and I think that anybody who is working their business full time should have a bookkeeper.
You need
because
a
those
good insurance agent too.
Yeah. Well, insurance as a whole, I think that we could make an entire topic off of insurance itself. Which is something that we're revisiting our insurance now that we have the new office and things are changing here. We have to completely redo all of our insurance. So that's something that we're working on right now. And I'm not an insurance broker, so of course I have an insurance broker going through all that for me. I'm probably going to have a quote tomorrow for it, right? So these are all things that we try to scrimp and save and not spend money on, and I think that is completely misguided. Not that I haven't done it. I did it. This is why I'm in the position that I'm in now, where I've realized that I basically lost thousands of dollars that I never should have had to lose, just because I didn't want to pay out the money to have somebody professionally take care of the taxes, the insurance, and everything else. So it's something that you really shouldn't do yourself.
I think it's really important, actually, that when you go to the point that you're thinking of starting a business, not just a side gig, but an actual, this is going to be what pays my bills business, you want to have a business plan, and you want to make sure that you plan out the near term, the intermediate, and the long term. You want to make sure that you hire and retain a good lawyer that's an expert in the field that you're working in, not just a lawyer that's a friend that might do family law and might be able to read a contract, but someone that actually knows what they're doing in your field and can be retained to help draft up contracts, mediate disputes, and engage in any necessary litigation or defense. Mm-hmm. And having a good accountant and bookkeeper, I think that's a must. I don't even think those are optional. I think that the moment you start making money, you should already have had a good accountant. And I'm not saying anything bad about you, Chris. I'm just saying to everyone else out there to make sure they learn from our mistakes. That's the idea here, is other people can learn from our mistakes so they don't have to make them themselves. And I think it's really important to have a good accountant out there. Again, one that specializes in small business, hopefully has some experience working with IT companies, so they can give you the kind of advice and guidance that you need. Because you shouldn't be wearing every hat. And I think it's already been mentioned several times that if you want to be good at your business, you have to focus on what your business needs, and that's your expertise, not you trying to figure out how to do everything.
Yep. No, that's absolutely right, and I don't take offense to that at all, although I will say that I didn't make a mistake. I made a learning opportunity.
Tuition paid.
But
there we go again.
You paid for it.
I like that positive spin.
Is that when I started my company, it was a sole proprietorship, and I did all of my own bookkeeping, and then I took everything to an accountant at the end of the year to do taxes, because I had no idea how to do corporate taxes. But year 2 and year 3 and year 4. I'm going to save a few bucks, because this is pretty straightforward. You just fill out these forms, right? And I got myself into that mindset, and you can't get yourself into that mindset.
And you can't, because no one's going to understand the tax code like an accountant.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I mean, like I said, I sat down and he started talking about all these things that I did wrong, and I can't get any of that money back. He'll be able to help me with the 2014 stuff, and that's going to be fantastic. But he can't help me with any of the past stuff, because I've already done it. It's already done. So that's was a huge time sink, because it took me forever to get it all done, and it was a money loss.
Yeah, and you think about it, how much am I going to pay the accountant to do my taxes versus how much time am I personally investing in it, and then how many liabilities am I creating for whatever net savings may or may not even exist. And the other thing that's really important is when you're talking about accountants, you really got to make sure that it is someone that can work well with you. Like Chris, you probably got lucky and found someone right off the bat that can really work well with your business type. But I've seen a lot of accountants misrepresent themselves and say, oh yeah, we can help you out. And then you start paying these odd charges for this and that you shouldn't be paying, like a meeting to research something about how your company is going to pay its taxes, and then the effects of those meetings, them preparing the taxes in that manner. So you've got to kind of scrutinize, maybe talk to other folks that are in similar businesses or small businesses that have good experiences, get a referral, maybe talk to a couple of them, interview them. But, it's not something that we can put to the wayside. No matter how busy we might think we are, there's nothing like an audit or an unexpected situation, a legal situation like getting a subpoena or something like that can throw your entire business off track. And we can't afford that. So we can afford the professionals to take care of us in our business.
That's absolutely it. And, if somebody's going to turn around and take us to small claims court for some crazy idea that they had of a lawsuit, I'm not going to spend the time to go to court. Why would I? I'll have the lawyer go. I'm going to sit here and make money. The lawyer is going to countersue for all the money that I would have spent sending them to court. Right. So there's anyway, the whole point on this and what I'm trying to get to, and it sounds like everybody's basically agreeing with me at this point, is that you shouldn't be the only person running your business. You should have all of these services coming to you, so that you can focus where you need to focus.
I don't disagree at all, but just to make the conversation more interesting, and I'm in a position where I've recently transitioned from doing this part-time to doing it full-time, and I haven't necessarily acquired the how do you say, like, I'm not booking my calendar as much as I need to, as much as I'd like to,
Sure.
and as much as I have time to be able to do. So since I have so much other time, and if a lot of people are kind of in that position where they're thinking about making that transition, consider, and I think, Jeff, we had talked about this once before, but you said have a schedule, have the things that you do throughout the day, and since my schedule's not full of customers, it's a little more sparse, I'm filling my schedule with a lot of other things, anything else that I can do. And having just started the advertising is not something that I've done 100% on my own, but I've been trying to think of every different thing that I can do and going out and making the effort to do that. But in addition, some of the other things, I think absolutely spot on with the tax person. I couldn't recommend that any higher, because if you don't know how to do it, you're leaving so much money on the table,
Yep.
And it's just ridiculous. The same thing with a lawyer. If you don't know your way in and out of a courtroom, don't touch that, and professionally, if you look at a system and you're like, oh, I think this is above my head, you send out a referral, you get the money to somebody else. So I absolutely agree in so many areas, but what I would caution somebody from doing is paying out for everything. I do change my own oil, but I've been doing it for a long time, and I'll fix my irrigation. That's another thing that I had to learn how to do, because when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, I get stuff. I'm not a sprinkler repair person, but if I felt like it was over my head, I absolutely would have had to pay somebody to do it. There's a tree that fell or falling in our backyard. I'm not going to handle that. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to pay somebody to do it. But I would caution somebody to consider maybe what can you DIY and maybe what's over your head, and know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the top of any business process list is making money. It's just when you get to that point, and I agree with you 100%, Aaron. I mean, without making money, the rest of this is mute. So, but you got to utilize the tools you have, and once you fill that calendar, you'll find probably that you enjoy doing your irrigation system will not become as enjoyable.
Well, and yeah. And I mean, that's entirely true, right? You have to have the money to be able to spend it in the first place. But let's be honest, if you have so little in the form of invoices and expenses that you could have a bookkeeper once a year clean things up just so that it's less expensive for you to send it to your accountant, then that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying, hire a full-time bookkeeper. Most businesses don't need that. So, you definitely tailor it towards what you need. I also think, though, that a lot of business owners, even if they're not fully booked but are fairly steady, do not sit back and assign a dollar value to their time. I did very early on, and I should have put it more into practice than I did, which, over the last year and a half, I've learned a lot as, the white label service skyrocketed. That I needed to stick to that dollar value, and if I look at that dollar value and the thing that I'm looking to do will cost me more money in time than it would in money, I don't do it, and I need to put that down firm, because unless it's my family, that time is completely priceless. Yeah. So I'm not a monster. I don't want to see that hate mail, but But the oil thing, or washing the car, I don't go to self-serve gas stations. There's no point in doing that. Full-serve gas stations. Sorry, there's no point in doing that. I pump my own gas. But the hour and a half that I'm going to spend washing the car, I have other things to do. So right. It's taking a look at how much your time is worth versus how much you're going to spend. If those don't equal out, don't do it. And that's my opinion.
Well, it sounds like you get a fantastic deal with a wash and a fill-up. I don't know what you pay compared to what we do in the States for gas, but $100 round trip and everything for them to deliver, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
It's right now we're at $1.07 a liter.
What's a liter?
Okay, that's like, you might as well be speaking Greek. That means nothing to us.
Hold on, I'll Google it.
Hey, with all this business process talk and all that, have you guys read the Phoenix Project?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's on Audible and all that. It's if you do business-to-business consulting and manage IT projects, that's a book for everybody to read, and it's actually very entertaining.
Yeah, another one. That's a great resource. Books, I think, are a #1 resource that you should actually be reading in your business if you are a business owner, because a lot of times that's the way we learn. In another book that I'll recommend, and we're going to have something coming down the pike here shortly, but E-Myth Revisited is also on Audible or in paperback form or however you want to get it, and that's a great book in letting you know what type of business person you actually are. And a lot of people will relate to, that we're all, I think when we got started in this business, we're all technicians. And there's very, very few of us that are actually natural entrepreneurs. You have that entrepreneurial spirit, but that's different than being an entrepreneur, because you actually have to put work in behind being an entrepreneur, and it just doesn't happen overnight. So that's another great book for understanding your business a little bit better. And I think that relates to, again, he talks about in that book about doing your business the way you need to do it, but also giving other things to other people that you don't have time to take care of. And I like Chris's analogy is great, because Chris, you're like, if I have, if it's not worth my time to do that, and it's cheaper for me to really pay somebody else to do it because I'm working in my business doing something else, which is going to, whether it's making you more money right then or potentially going to make you more money down the road, that's where you need to be spending your time. So a lot of us don't think that way. We think that, hey, if we're not working on a customer's computer at the time, that we're not building our, we're not working in our business. But the reality is, there's many different ways to work in your business. Marketing yourself. How do you let more people know about you? How, what types of things can you come up with to, help people, maybe give discounts or whatever. There's a bunch of different things you can come up with. Marketing campaigns, yada yada yada. And so, I think a lot of times if we realize that and go, okay, and that's what I constantly try to think of, and I'm not perfect at it or anything like that, but a lot of times I go, well, you know what? I really need to work in my business and get some things that are like nagging that haven't gotten done in order for my business to be able to grow. Because the other thing is, a lot of people, a lot of times when it comes to business, will just sit there and they do the same thing day in and day out, and it never changes, it never grows, and a lot of times it just becomes very, very frustrating, because they are the jack of all trades. They're doing everything in their business. They're fixing everything that comes their way, and because that's all they equate to, this is how I make money. Well, if you're going to do that, you might as well just go get a job.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no point, because the whole thing about being your own boss is actually being your own boss.
Yep.
Well,
and
I don't know if we're ever really our own boss. We probably have however many customers or cases outstanding are the number of bosses that we have at any given moment in time. But in terms of being more independent and choosing what work we take on and defining what jobs are going to be the most profitable and the most satisfying, that's really important to make sure that you figure out what you want to do. It's your business, it's your life, it's your opportunity, and you get to define it. And that can be both exciting and terrifying, but spending a good deal of your time, about 10% to 20% of your time, on tasks that aren't just customer billables, that's important for growing your business, developing your business, and learning new skills as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sorry to cut in here, guys. I did let this go too long. I have to jet, but
Okay.
I will see you all next week.
Sounds good, man. Hey,
Take
have
care,
a good
Chris.
one.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
So I think there's a lot of different ways that you could go about this, and but it really is sticking to the things that you're good at, and taking the things, and I think, Aaron, even you said, there's a time for making that transition. I'll be honest with you, because I'm a part-time business, I still do my own bookkeeping. Because I still have enough time at this point in between customers that I can take care of that. Now, I do use services, things like Repair Shopper for my ticketing system and stuff like that, because what I've realized with things like that is that saves me a ton of time, and I'm able to do the normal spreadsheet with bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff and keep up with my, my bills and stuff like that. So that's worked for me. But a lot of times when I was doing that stuff manually and it was all like real paper, it just, and I didn't, hey, what did I do on that person's computer? I can't remember. But now I actually have a program that's in place that will give me all that information. If a customer calls me up and says, hey, you remember me? You worked on my computer a year and a half ago. Oh, yeah. I have no idea who they are. I really don't. But I can log into my computer real quick and look at the customers and go, once they tell me their name, oh yeah, I worked on that HP laptop, and yeah, you got that dog that, yeah, what? And so, you can remember some of those things about them, and, from their standpoint, they're, oh yeah, he remembered me, even though I really don't, but because you see so many customers, you see so many computers over time that those things aren't in the forefront of my mind, unless it's an ongoing customer that I'm seeing on a regular basis, like a business owner. Residential customers, we see them, once a year, once every year and a half, sometimes every 2 years, and that's it.
And there's some cases, though, that'll stand out in your mind that'll be unique cases. I had a case come in for a break fix where a gentleman's parrot pecked off every key on the keyboard with few exception, and the bird was only with the computer in the kitchen for 15 or 20 minutes according to him, and just everything was on the floor. Some of them were back in the cage, I guess, trying to make a nest out of it. I'll never forget that customer's name or that case just because of how much it stands out in my mind from that experience.
That's true. That's a good point. Wow. Yeah, I think that would stand out in anybody's mind. That's for sure. Oh my gosh. Well, I think we've talked about, a lot of different things today, kind of answered some questions about, virus removals, and kind of answered some questions about, or, really talked about, do what you're good at and leaving the rest off to the side. And I think you can do this process as a growing process. I don't think you need to go out and buy every little, tool and thing out there right now in your business, especially when you're starting off. Start doing, and here's one of the things that I do enjoy about certain things. Now, when it comes to accounting, absolutely not.
Right.
But when it comes to bookkeeping, or working on a computer or doing certain things, one of the things I want to do in my business is I want to basically know what's being done, so that even if I pass it off to somebody, I have a basic understanding of what I've done in my business, and it's kind of what I call business building blocks. You know how to do certain things. It's like I teach my children, how to change the oil in their car, not because they can't pay for it, they could. But I teach them so that they know they have, if somebody comes to them and says, hey, this is wrong with the car or whatever, they have a basic understanding of, changing their own tire, oil change, all that kind of stuff, to where they're not taken aback by somebody that's telling them, hey, here's what you got going on, and they just have no clue. And some people, they're constantly like that, and I don't ever want to be that type of person. I want to know just enough that I'm willing to pay somebody else to do it, because I know that I absolutely don't want to do it anymore. If that makes sense.
It does. And I grew up in a house where my parents would try to pay someone else to do everything, and that actually, just being a rebellious kid, inspired me to want to just learn how to do everything on my own. Take apart every computer, take apart the phone, the VCR, whatever, learn how it works, put it back together again. And I was kind of that way when I first started my business too. I wanted to try to be everything for every part of my business. And at first, when you're a one-man show and you're working, a couple hours a day on customer stuff, it works out well, and it gives you a good foundation to know how your business operates financially, how it operates in other areas as well, legally, for example, if you're crafting your own contracts or getting guidance, but not necessarily having a lawyer on staff or on retainer. But yeah, there does eventually come a time where you have to build out and really start doing that stuff, sourcing it out, especially when it's those professional services. So when we did our first year of taxes, it was a learning experience for me back when I first started my business, because I had no idea what I was getting into going into the accountant's office. And after that, I was like, probably we should meet a couple times a year so I can get a better handle of things like quarterly estimated payments, which a lot of self-employed people I know will slip behind on. They might do better. You do real good one year, and then your reward, so to speak, is that you get to pay a big penalty with interest on top because you didn't pay all your payments on time. So it's something that I definitely think is worth consideration. If you have time to do your own books, that's great, but always bring everything to the accountant at the end of the day. But learn when you need to have the opportunity to delegate, and exploit that if it's going to make you more money than not.
Right.
Good call.
Point. Yep. Well, I think like I said, I think we've covered a ton of stuff this week, and we've gone all over the place and had some fun. So it's just been good. But I do appreciate you guys coming out on the show and sharing today, and it's been great just to be able to share some ideas with you and get everybody's take on how they do certain things. But I'll tell you what, Aaron, if you wanted to let people know, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Best way to contact me would be to go to my website, www.techytutors.com. That's techytutors.com, and all my Facebook and everything's on there. So that would be the best way.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you coming out and sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And Alex, if you want to let people know how they can get in contact with you, that'd be great.
Sure, absolutely. Check us out on the web for IT services at investcent.com. That's ENVESCENT.com. Or at Investcent on Twitter. Or for computer repair and data recovery, check out avcr.us.
Yeah, and this guy does the real deal, data recovery. So I'm sure, if you need some advice on that stuff, or even if you wanted to send him some work, I'm sure he wouldn't turn it away.
Happy to help.
And John, how can people get in contact with you?
Mavengroup.net, MAVENGROUP.net. It's got everything if somebody wants to reach out.
Very cool. Well, appreciate you coming out on the show. And
I'd also be curious if anybody out there is going to the ACES conference in May down in New Orleans. It's a business building conference. ACESconf.com. If anybody else is going, let me know. I'm toying around with the idea of maybe going.
I will say this, now that you brought that up, there are other conferences I want to go to, and I think ChannelCon is going to be the number one that I'm going to go to this year, but I definitely want to build it into my business where I'm starting to go do some of these different conferences, not only rub elbows, but also to learn some new things and kind of see what's going out, outside of the realm of, what we do here. There's all kinds of things that I think you can learn outside of your basement. Not that we all sit in our basement or anything like that, but no, I do want to get more involved with that type of stuff. But I've looked at that conference too, and there's a lot of different ones that are definitely very interesting, and they're really all over the United States.
Yeah, and I've been to a ton of them. I try to be pretty picky choosy on getting them because sometimes you go and you wonder why you spent the time and the money to go. So
okay,
I want to find the value, the ones that really provide value. So I think I'm with you on that, Jeff. Yep.
And I think the ones that have more kinds of advanced level talks, maybe even some kind of on-the-spot training or classes that you can opt into where you're enhancing your skill set and maybe rubbing elbows with other people in the field where you can do some feedback with them and basically talk through the process. That can help learn some new skills, network at the same time, and kind of build up your business and from there as well.
Yeah. And what you're going to see at a lot of these conferences is you're going to see vendors for things that you're already using or things that you may be using in the future, and you get a chance to talk with some of these because a lot of these businesses are smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at the IT field and we look at what we do, and we're like, hey, a lot of us are one-person shops or whatever, and it's like, yes, we are, but at the same time, there's a lot of businesses out there that are not as big as you think they are.
Right.
So a lot of times you'll see real people that you can talk to and kind of get their mindset on why they made a tool or a product a certain way, and kind of even they love that direct feedback too on if you're using their product or if you're looking for something that's going to hit the niche that you absolutely need.
On that note, sometimes you can get involved with some testing programs that different vendors have available, especially the smaller ones,
Right.
and you can get some cheaper, less expensive product, or maybe you just pay for the shipping, and you just have to write a review or give them the feedback like you're saying.
That's a good
Right.
point.
Yeah, very good.
And
point.
another one that Jeff, you brought up, a lot of them are small. I think a lot of the best tools come from those small companies
No
too.
doubt.
Absolutely.
They're very accessible, which makes it really good for us.
Exactly. Well, and it's the same reason us being in small businesses, it's what I try to tell the customer is that you can go somewhere else. And what I don't want a million customers. I want, really just a few hundred customers. Yeah. I just want a few hundred customers that are going to come back to me on a regular basis that I can build a relationship and, build that back and forth with. I don't need, again, I only have so many hours in a day, and I will probably get to the point where, I will have to hire somebody at a certain point. But to be honest with you, even if I can keep doing it myself, it's what I still enjoy doing. So, but
you want 100 good customers is what you want.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. You got it. All right. Well, we do Podnutz, a computer repair podcast, every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/live. We would love it if you guys would watch it and join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room or calling in live. We also have on-demand audio and video always available after the fact over at podnutz.com and my YouTube channel, Podnutz Live Show for Computer Repair Techs. You guys can also find me on the Google Plus at Jeffery Halash or Twitter at TechNutPC. And if you're a computer repair tech and would like to be a guest on Podnutz Daily, no matter what size you are, where you can talk about your own business, email me at podnutzdaily@podnutz.com. You guys can also email questions and feedback to this show at podnutz@podnutz.com. You guys can leave us a voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. If you guys could, please leave us a rating and review over on iTunes. Again, I know a lot of people don't use iTunes, but I know there's a lot of you out there that do for whatever reason, or maybe your kid's got an account or something. But if you can give us a review on that, that would be great, just so more people learn about this show and more people can be helped by it. You guys can also help support the Podnutz Network. The next time you're shopping at Amazon, go to podnutz.com/Amazon. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast.
And this is the part where
cool.
the music's playing?
Yeah, the imaginary music. Yeah, one day production quality will go up, I'm sure, but not today.
Right on.
We're waiting.
Hey,
We're waiting.
I like the new thumbnails on your videos. Those looks really nice.
Thank you. I did not put those together. Somebody else actually did that, and that's they're redesigning the Podnutz website. So I think that was a Steve Cherubino adventure, and he's basically putting some stuff together, and that new website should be launched here probably within like June, I would say.
Very cool.
So that'll be kind of cool.
Sweet.
Let me see. But yeah, so some of those thumbnails and different things, and it's kind of nice because it was a wide thumbnail, so it kind of fills up the portion there.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks nice.
Okay, I do apologize if somebody did call in. Apparently, it was we've got somebody that's picking up the calls, and it looks like it kind of went through. I got to check the system to make sure it's working right. It's supposed to be basically we got a forwarding system, and we're using a couple of different Skype accounts to make it work. So if you called in, I do apologize. We should have that up and running in next week. So yeah, we'll close that up. All right. So anyways, what time is it?
5:30.
5:30, man. Good
Michigan
time. Good time.
2:30 here. I still got a few hours of fun.
All right.
Oh, well, there's still sun over here. We got time to, it doesn't matter because I'm not going outside anyway.
Come on, it's like 58 degrees, Jeff. It's warm enough for you to go outside.
Hey, somebody's been mowing their grass this whole time. I don't know if you guys were able to hear that in the audio, but I like having the window open because it gets very hot in this office. So it's kind of nice to have that window open, and I hear all these sounds, and I'm like going, I hope the audio didn't pick that up, but it might.
It didn't. It sounded really good, actually.
Okay. I have everything tweaked fairly well to where I can be in not a super noisy environment, but a fairly noisy environment with people running around, and it usually doesn't affect the audio too bad. But the other thing you guys don't realize, because you can't really see it on the video, but I'm basically almost kissing my mic, so
Yeah, it's a unidirectional mic pointed at your mouth, so there's other sound is not going to come into it, thankfully.
Exactly.
Hey Jeff, are you a Premier provider or a Premier member of ChannelCon? CompTIA?
No, because I don't even know what that is, so no, I'm not. Why do you ask?
I'm just wondering if you guys are getting a discount on the ChannelCon registration, or if you are, how?
As far as for the tickets?
Yes.
Okay, hold off on that.
Roger that.
Okay, that's all I can say right now, guys. We're working to get some things put together, and you will probably be able to get a ticket to ChannelCon. That's all I'll say right now. There's no guarantees, but we have a sponsor that is working on that as I speak.
Oh,
so.
I know who that is. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a good man.
We're just trying to nail down some things, and like I said, we're going to also do the plan is to do a live event. So that's the plan right now. Kind of like they did last year in Phoenix.
Very nice.
So that's the plan, and I want to get as many people to that as possible, because I will tell you that, basically, when they did this last year, it's kind of like podcasting is not as mainstream as I would like it to be, and I'll just say that. And so, but to me, it's the best medium for real people getting together, sharing about what they use in their business.
I agree.
Not watching a commercial on TV, which I don't even pay attention to. I move on and go to something else. But the problem with podcasting, or not the problem, but the facade is that there's no measurable way to get the audience that's looking at the different podcasts or listening to the podcast. I still think audio podcasts are still the best, because I personally don't have a lot of time to sit around and watch videos.
Sure.
But I love the audio talking format. I have for years. If anybody's ever listened to things like Car Talk on NPR and stuff like that over the years, great content, great shows of real people asking real questions.
Is that the two guys that banter back and forth?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great show.
Yep. Kind of like what we do here. So that this is kind of one of the things where I kind of wanted to make something that was, it was real people in the real business that can help other real people that are starting their business or have even been in business for years, and give them other ideas to think about. So
definitely.
But,
no, I love the format here. I was stoked when I found your show here.
Oh, very cool. Appreciate that. I will tell you that I do have a room at the hotel, though. We did already take care of that. So
I'm married, Jeff.
Not.
Oh, jeez.
Here we go.
Sorry.
Well, okay. So I'm rooming with Chris. What does that mean? I have no idea. But
No
Canadian.
comment.
Canadian. Jeez.
My Canadian brother.
This poor man.
Oh. Anyways, so yes, we already did get our room. We already booked it, because I don't know how fast that stuff goes. I think it's in the Hilton, but I will put in the show notes. I will put a link to CompTIA ChannelCon, so everybody has can get the information and stuff like that and check it out. But yeah, as far as right now, just hold off on the tickets. We'll see what we got going on. So with that being said, I think we've had a nice full show, and appreciate you everybody coming out and watching, and we will see you next week. Same time, same place. Have a great week.